Hey, good people. So I'm on the road yet again. Road Trip Chronicles. What's up? What's up? What's up? This trip on the Mass Pike is super boring, super quiet, but it's all good. What's up, Kanisha? I'm glad you chimed in because maybe you could help me get informed in this conversation. I want to start talking about raising single women, raising boys. And then I want to talk about single women raising girls. Now, I know that there are single men that are raising children too. That's a different part where I'm like, there's got to be some guys out there who could help have conversation and get informed about being a single dad. But I don't know anything about that. So I tend to gear towards what I know. And so I'm looking for some enlightenment. I'm looking for some conversation, just to understand some dynamics that I've been noticing, some really great stuff and then some not so great stuff. And so I just wanted to have some dialogue with y'all this afternoon. So really quick, if I could talk about what it's like to be a woman, a single woman raising a boy. I think about a couple different things. I think about even if the father of your children are in their lives, but they're not there on a day-to-day basis, the more time you spend with your sons, right? Or the more time you're with them, the more influential you are, the more that they are gleaning from your life, versus just being on the weekends or seeing somebody once in a blue moon. So how do you balance teaching your young man how to be a man while still being that soft mother, that one that your children can come to and confide in as a boy, but still empowering him to be a young man? I see that dynamic a lot, and I'm like, how does somebody balance that? How do you not coddle your sons? And I don't care even if they're 5 and under, because it begins from the beginning, right? How do you not coddle them to the point of enabling them, right? Where they don't know how to function on their own when they become older, or where they're not confident, or whatever that might be. But then also still mother them and nurture them as a mother should do. Does anybody have any insight to that? I know we don't ever get manuals to this thing. When I had my daughter, Anaya, because I'm married now, I'll be married for 2 years in July 7th, actually next week, right? But I was a single mom for 12 years. For 12 years. I was a single mom. And my daughter's father, it was in her life, but he lived in another state. So I was her primary caregiver. And I saw a lot of things that I did really, really well. And I saw a lot of things that I did not so well. So I think you can't hear? Oh God, Kanisha, can you hear? Kanisha, let me know. Can you hear? Oh, Kanisha said you can't really teach them how to be a man. Right, but are there things that you can pour into him to prepare him for manhood? Let's say there isn't a father in the picture. If there's no father in the picture, what are some things that can be done to empower a young man by a single mother? Is there anybody that has any tools or things that they've done or things that they've seen other people do that has helped their sons? And I say that because I believe that a single mom raising a son is preparing him. I think of it as you're preparing him to one day be somebody's husband, right? You're preparing him to one day be somebody's father. What type of values do we instill in them without crippling them? And let me give you an example. I'll say this for myself. When I was a single mom, I ended up smothering my daughter to the point where she became my crutch. Meaning I had her sleep in the bed with me for years because I just didn't want to be alone. She loved it. She absolutely loved it. I don't think I got Anaya, my oldest daughter, out of my bed until she was like 8 or something. Like, she loved it. And I loved the company. But that was crippling. That was me needing like some comfort. And so I see sometimes young single women who make their sons their man. I know that don't sound good, but when I say they make them their man, meaning like their whole timeline is like of them taking pictures like they would of their husband or their boyfriend or somebody in their lives, or everything that their son does is like they are on top of it like white on rice. You know what I mean? It's like, what is happening? And the son becomes, just completely disabled to function. Like, how do you balance that? Make him do choices. Okay, so you instill certain things in him for his own independence, period. Kanisha said that. Okay. So, Adwina, you said you hear me now. Good. So you just instill things in him, but you're not trying to take the place of a man, because you could never teach him how to be a man. Is that what you said, Kanisha? Sade, could you also chime in on this too? Like, how do you instill in your sons, I'm talking about sons right now, and then I'm going to go over to daughters. Like, how do you instill in your sons how to be, pour into them values of being an outstanding man as he grows up, and an outstanding father, even though you're his mother? How do you balance that without crippling and enabling him, where you're still rocking him like, this is your baby, this is my son, this is my baby, and he's 16 and he's 18. He's not a baby anymore. So how do you balance that? Kanisha had just said that she, makes sure that her son does chores and has certain things that he needs to do, showing him responsibility, which I think is dope. I think that's an amazing way to pour into him, where you're not just, lack of a better term, like you're not babying him. Y'all following me? Every day we go through affirmations. That's dope too. Okay, so affirmations, they're things that you're having him say that's for his own growth as a young man. That's what I'm thinking you're saying as affirmations. And you're helping to empower him. You think it helps empower him. Okay. Anybody else? Like, what do you do? Let's say the father is absent. Like, what do you tell your sons? Or do your sons ask? Like, what do we say about their fathers? You know what I mean? Like, let's say the story is not a good story. Like, what do we share with our sons about where? Because I don't care what anybody says. I believe that any child's going to ask you, like, where's my father? Or if it's on the other hand, where's my mother? Like, what is our answer to that? I've seen some not so good answers where the father is bashed by the mom to the child, and now the child has this anger inside of them, because I believe that especially sons, and y'all help me because I don't have any sons, I only have daughters. Sons are very protective of their mothers. Am I right? That's what I've seen. I try to teach him how to be a man of God, okay, and a man of integrity. That's good. That's good. So you actually are teaching him how to be a man of God and how to have integrity. And if those things are taught, and this is my thinking, if those things are taught, then all the other functions of what it is to be a man, what it means to be a father, those things will fall into place, right? Because you've given him the foundations, which is God, to be able to steer him in the right direction. Wow. Okay, you have to be honest. Carmen said you have to be honest. So Carmen, like, sometimes honesty, right, can be like, it can be painful. How do you, so you just got to share it, right? Like, even if you know what they're going to hear is painful. Sorry guys, I got cut off. Carmen, is it better to, even if the honesty is going to be painful, is it better to just nurture them through the process of sharing, but still just straight flat-footed, just telling them the truth? I don't bash his father. Okay, that's good. Okay, so do our children, let me ask you, do young boys ask a lot of questions? Because I know, as when I was raising, again, Anaya, by myself, she would ask me a lot of questions. She would ask me questions like, if you say that you're supposed to be married when you have kids, like, why did you never marry my dad? Or she would ask me like, did you like him? Did you kiss him? She would ask me very specific questions. Do boys tend to do that too? Or do they tend to like be a little bit more silenter? Or I don't know. Like I'm really looking for enlightenment, because this thing has been a conversation in my head. It's been a conversation that I'm like, wow, like there's so many different dynamics to this, because you have a boy, then you're gonna have a teenager, and then you're gonna have a man, and it's the same person. Like, how does that evolution happen where we are empowering them to the best of our abilities? Because again, there's no handbook to this. We're empowering them to the best of our abilities, but literally still allowing them to grow up and have their own ideas of what's happening or what they want for their lives. I don't know. My personal history. Okay. I taught my son how to memorize Bible verses. Ooh, that's good. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's kind of like in the veins of what Kanisha said. Let me see, Carmen. My personal history with his dad doesn't mean that he will have the same problem. Okay. That's true. Okay, so Carmen, that is really helpful, because just because this is my story, right? Or just because this is how it happened in my life doesn't mean that it's something that has to happen in yours, right? Like, how is it all kids ask that first? Okay, so all kids, not just girls, but boys do too. How is it that some kids, they react in different ways? Like, I'm like, is it because of how? Because it could be the same story. You could have two boys. I'll give you an example, right? You have two boys that you're raising, same father. One of them becomes extremely rebellious, and the other one is just kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to raise my kids better. Like, if the father wasn't in the picture, one of them just becomes rebellious, angry, and the other one is just like, yeah, I'm just going to do the opposite. Like, what happened? How did that happen? How did it happen? I'm just curious, like, why is it that this is the outcome for the same son, same kids, right? Both sons. How is it one is angry and the other one is just like, I'm just going to do it different this time? I love how Edwina said that you teach him Bible verses. You taught him Bible verses. So I'm just going to give you the fishing rod, but you're going to have to fish. Like, you're going to have to read. The therapist said, don't have to stop talking about it. Okay. Particularly in divorce. Okay, so let's talk about that part with divorce. Again, I'm asking these questions just to have dialogue, to help. I think it helps to inform us. It helps all of us when you're like, I have no manual to this thing. I am also a child from a divorced marriage. And from that divorce, a lot of things came, and you would think it wouldn't have come because the divorce happened between my mother and my father. But I was a casualty of that divorce. So meaning, even though it was years before, I think my parents divorced before I was even like 2 years old or something like that. But even with that, I grew up with a lot of different things that happened in my head. It didn't happen in life, meaning like they did their best. You know what I mean? They did their best to show me that I was loved by both of them, that it wasn't my fault. But I'm telling you, there were some things that I just thought that I never spoke. And it ended up becoming a lot of seeds of anger and just, it just was a whole lot. But I like how you said, Kanisha, that the therapist said, just starting with that, the therapist said that we can actually get some help, get some third party help coming in, because I think that no matter if it's a boy or a girl, there's a lot of things that kids are not saying. There's a lot of feelings that kids are not expressing. And that kid is going to become a teenager that's going to have a lot of things that they're not expressing. And then that teenager becomes an adult that has a lot of things that they're not expressing. And so, wow. Okay. So would you guys agree that having a third party come in and kind of help through any major transitions, even when it seems okay? I've noticed that boys and girls, and y'all help me out here because I told you I don't have any boys, but I find that boys seem to be a little bit more enduring. Like, they don't say much a lot. Girls will be crying, oh, where is he? Maybe boys do that too when they're younger, but I just find that a lot of times I see males that and females going through the same thing in very different ways. And some things didn't come out in words, but came out in drawings. That's another good thing. Okay, so how do we gauge, especially when they're young, how do we gauge how they're being affected? It could be in the arts, it could be by the subtleties, it could be even in the silence. I think we just have to, would you agree, like, we need to just know our kids? You know what I mean? If their disposition changes or whatever, we have to know our kids. Sometimes, like with my oldest daughter, I'll ask her some really hard questions, and sometimes she gets uncomfortable. Like we were driving, she was getting ready to get on the plane, and we got an hour drive, so I'm having conversation with her and having some real questions and talks with her. She's uncomfortable, but even through the discomfort, I gotta ask the questions, right? Ironically, my daughter is the emotionless one. That's crazy. Okay, Carmen. So I said that about the emotions with the girls, right? But that was me too. Like, Carmen, I felt like I was like this anomaly sometimes where I'm like, yo, I don't react like that. Like, I'm really emotionless, but I had to tap into that for myself personally, that I had tapped out, girl. I had tapped out of them emotions. I was like, actually, as a woman, I do have emotions, but girl, I had tapped out of them things because I felt like it would keep me stronger. And so sometimes I'm like, okay, when we look at our children, they seem like they're fine, but are they really just tapping out? Are they really just at times just enduring, trying to endure or persevere through the hurt and the pain, right? I don't know. But what about raising girls? Okay, so I didn't ask about the boys. What about being a single mom raising girls? Like, how do we, let me tell you an example for me. Like, I ended up, as a teenager, feeling like I was invincible, like I could do everything by myself. And that was my way. It was my way of protecting myself from being rejected by anybody, because I felt at times rejected and abandoned, right? So I basically took on this disposition where I asked nobody for help. Even when I graduated from college and stuff, I barely told anybody. Nobody really knew my grades. They never really knew like anything about me, because I would move in silence. And I moved in silence. I thought it was a way of strength, but it actually was a way of me just self-sabotaging, being potentially rejected. So I just removed myself completely from the situation. Okay? And so I think about that with daughters. I'm like, if I was like that, and I continue to be like that for a good period of time, y'all, and I'm raising a daughter, do I end up teaching her that's the behavior, that's how she should be, just by my actions? Or do I tell her you could do anything without a man because I have always had to do it without a man? Like, how do you balance that? Like, how do you balance being able to teach your daughters the true way to go, right? The way that's not going to hinder or harm them, when you still like, I don't know what happened to me. Like, I don't know why this marriage didn't work. I don't know what, I thought we was in love and he left or whatever. Like, how do you balance making sure that we teach our daughters that even though I had this situation, you don't have to have this situation? Because I think a lot of times our daughters become like our best friends. Like, can I just be honest? Like, they're there, right? They're there. It's just you and them sometimes. And as they start getting older, they start like being like friends to you. That's another area. So it's like, yeah, I want you to be my friend, but I don't want you to be my friend to the point where we hanging out necessarily at the club together. I'm just saying. Like, I don't want you to be my friend where you talking to me and you forget that I'm your mother. What's the balance here? What's the balance? Help me out, y'all. Help me out. They learn it from us. Yeah, I know, Sade. So it's like, well, what do I do if I'm in my process, right? And I'm just like generally asking this question. What do you do if you're in this process where you really don't know what you know what I mean? You're like, I don't know. Like, I know I'm independent. Do I teach her how to be an independent woman that she don't need no man? Let me give you an example. The other day, let me give you this example real quick. Other day, I went to the grocery store, right? And I'm like, I can pick all these bags up if I want to, but I'm married now, right? So why would, just because I can pick up 9 bags, because I had to pick up 9 bags 6 years ago or whatever, just because I had to pick up 9 bags before, it doesn't mean that that's what I want to teach my daughter. And so I know that my daughter has seen me do many things like that. And so she went to go get some stuff out the car, and she had all these bags in her hand, right? And my husband comes and he's like, let me help you. And she's like, no, I got it. And he's like, let me get the door for you. And she's like, no, I got it. Now, mind you, she got her hands full with bags. They on her wrists, they hanging off of her shoulders, everything. And she's saying to him, I got it, and I'll get the door. That, when I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness, I feel like I done taught you that. I had to have a conversation with her and say, listen, when a man want to open a door for you, or when a man, I don't care that, yes, this is your stepfather or your father, I know, but any man, right? That is somebody that you might end up dating in the future. It might be your uncles. It might be, yes, Sade, that's what I'm saying. Wow. I was like, you let that man open the door for you. You let that man get those bags for you. She was like, but I mean, I got it. And I was like, I get that. And I know you got it. I know it. I said, but just because we can carry 9 bags, that don't mean that we're supposed to. Are y'all following me? Yes, show her something new. Reprogramming. Lorna, it's not easy. When I saw it, I had to literally have some introspection moments myself. Listen, do you know what it takes me? And I know my husband wouldn't mind me saying this, but do you know what it takes for me to pull up to the house and beat the horn, or to call him and tell him I'm outside, I need help? I'll be wanting to grab those 20 bags. I'll be like, the door is right there. I'll just prop them up. I'll put one on my head, put one on my shoulder. I'll put the baby on my arm, and I'm going to come in this door. Do you know what it takes for me? I think it's a renewing of the mind. What do y'all think? Like, I have to renew my mind from what I've had to do for 12 years, or even before that. I remember going to buy a car and all of that and not asking nobody for help. None of that. I got the most bootleg, broke down, hoopty you could ever imagine. Lorna, you said I get it. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, do I have to do this stuff alone? Absolutely not. We don't have to. And I think we have to show our girls that even when we're still in the process. What do you think? We have to also let men be men. Come on. Lorna, tell me what that means. Tell me what that means to let men be men. Because I think that, you know, I remember when before I was getting married and I was preparing, I was in courtship, I was preparing, and I remember, like, I got a couple mentors in my life, and I remember they were pouring into my life, and one of my mentors, she said to me, listen, even when you think you know it all or you got the answer, let him give an answer sometime. Like, ask him for an answer. I'm like, but I already know the answer. She's like, Jermika. That's another thing. You need mentors in your life. The Bible talks about even women, older women, preparing the younger women to be wives and to be mothers, because you don't know it all. You don't know it all, and your kids are watching. What you say, Hope? Hope says she's still trying to get it right. My husband always says that to me. Used to doing it alone, but Hope, okay, we might be in the process, but our kids are watching. I know the answer. V, I'm telling you, I'll be like, but why would I not tell him the truth? And I believe my mentor. I believe my mentor was telling me the very right thing. Like, it sat well with my spirit, but it didn't sit well with my mind. I was like, I'm not understanding. this is not making any rational sense. She's like, it might not make no rational sense, but I promise you, it is spiritually in alignment, okay? We break them down when we don't allow them to. That's good. And Lorna, we don't want to break down your husband. You don't want to break down the one that's sent to you, right? And we talking about our children being single mothers to boys and girls. We don't want to break down our children or teach them something. I don't want to teach my daughter. Let me say this. I don't want to teach my daughter how to survive no more. Then can I tell you, when I was a single woman, I was surviving. Yo, I was not living, y'all. I was surviving. And surviving is not living. Okay? And I think sometimes when we survive for a long time, there's some single mothers, shout out to them. Listen, when I say I'm not speaking against single mothers or anything like that, because I was a single mother for a very long time. And I think you're the most strongest, most boldest, most enduring woman. You will never be able to be a man. You will never be able to take the place of a man. But my God, you have done phenomenally with trying to do what needs to be done. And that was always my story. Listen, Sade, that was always my story, where it's like, it gotta get done. If I don't do it, nobody else will, so I gotta do it. That's survival mode. That's survival mode. And sometimes we gotta be in survival mode. That's just the nature of it. But I'm gonna teach my daughter, I'm gonna teach my son that is exactly what it was. That's not living. And so I don't want you to mistake the two. Oh my God, I'm getting a revelation in that right there. I'm getting a revelation that even though I've had to survive and I've had to do what I had to do, that was not living. And so I don't want you to ever mistake the two. Oh my God, somebody say something about that. Somebody. Are y'all following what I'm saying? Is it making sense? Like, is that registering with anybody? Like, to share with our boys and share with our girls that just because I had to do it doesn't mean that's what is for you to do. Because I find it to be sometimes generational. I find generational curses end up being developed. Have y'all ever seen families? I've seen it. Listen, have you ever seen families where the women just can't, the relationships never last, or they're always in toxic marriages, where you're like, how long you been with JoJo? You've been with JoJo for 40 years, and JoJo ain't never took care of you. He never cared for you. Y'all just live together. I have seen it generationally. And I think it's because that each generation just thought, oh, then JoJo did it, Bobo did it, Tito did it. And I'm just throwing names out there. So they just think this is how it's supposed to be done. How do we share that message with our daughters? Do we just sit them down and have real dialogue with them when they get like old enough and say, listen, remember this? Remember when you saw mom do this? Or remember when you saw, can I tell y'all, there were times where, I would eat ramen noodles and make sure that my daughter had a full meal. And be like, do you know there's times when I used to eat those ramen noodles? It was not because I liked them. That I want you to be very clear. It's not because I liked them. It was because I wanted to make sure that you had, because we didn't have enough for me to eat it too. So I made sure that you had it. But that's not living. That's surviving, honey. So I want you to do something different in your life. Come on, somebody. I know. What do we do? That's real, Sade. Yo, it's so real. It's so real, Sade. But you don't despise it, because when you in it, when you think back on it retrospectively, like when you look back, you're like, oh my God, I remember when I ain't have no gas in the tank. I don't know how I got from daycare. Listen, somebody, I don't know how I got from daycare to work. I remember going to New Haven back and forth for like 3 days on quarter of a tank. That was God. That was God. I'm telling you. Let them see our example of something different, but give language and context to the change. That's dope. I wish I could just, you know what? Hopefully you'll let me just take that and I'll put that in a post. Boom. That's good. That's absolutely good. I'm going to live it out, but I'm going to give you some language to describe what's actually happening, contrary to what you may have seen. That's good. Looking at the eggs some mornings, and be like, someone want eggs. Listen, you better add some milk to them eggs, let them stretch. Listen, one thing I do know, listen, I always tell, I tell my husband this all the time. I'm like, listen, I am a very frugal person when it comes to like buying clothes, or like, I'm like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We just gonna clean it, type of thing. Like, I'm like that. But when it comes to food, I say, don't ask me how much it costs. Like, when it comes to food, when we go out to eat, I just want to order what I want to order. Like, when I go to the grocery store, I do not want a coupon. I just don't want to do that when it comes to food right now, because I enjoy food, right? And so I feel like I weigh, my spending, my frugalness on what I don't spend for like clothing and stuff like that I can then splurge a little when it comes to food. But I told my husband, I'm like, yeah, I might get the shrimp. You know what I mean? It wasn't on sale. I might get the shrimp now, but trust, your girl knows how to make a meal when I only got $10 for the week, because I've been there. But I don't want to be there. You know what I'm saying? I don't desire to remain in that place, because that's surviving. That's not living. And so just because I know how to do it doesn't mean I want to do it. I'm just saying, y'all laughing, but it's the truth. I don't want to do that if I don't have to do that. And so I want to show my daughters, I want to show them that when they get thick, I'm going to show you how to make this stretch. Okay? Because I've been there and I know how to make it stretch. And I know how to make your gas tank go a little bit further. Turn that AC off. Okay? Only put the windows up in the front, not the back, because then you're going to get the draft that's going to drag your car a little bit and it's going to burn out the gas. Hold up. I could tell you that. But today I want to live, and I want to show you, go ahead and roll the windows up. My daughter for a long time used to be like, put the windows down. It was 90 degrees outside. Put the windows down, put the windows down. I'm like, no, it's okay. We're going to put the air on. She's like, air conditioning? Listen, that child ain't no air conditioning, because the car that I first had, the air conditioner I had was a Maxima. The air conditioning would drag that gas. It was like it was just being licked out the tank. I was like, don't turn that air conditioner on. We're going to let the windows down. And so when time progressed, my daughter was like, why you got the windows up? Put the windows down. I'm like, no. We're not surviving right now. We're living. Who knows what I'm talking about? Who knows what I'm talking about? There's a transition that happens, but I feel like it's so important that we share it honestly with our kids. Listen, you've been there? Listen, don't put that air on, yo. Listen, how much change you got in the ashtray? Don't use my change for them gumball machines, because I might need it this week. Come on, somebody. It's real. It's real. And I'm going to be honest. Can we be honest with our kids about it? Like, I think it's beautiful to share the story that we persevered through it. And this is how you can do it if it get thick. I believe it's the stock of the nature of our people. Y'all, we had to get through some stuff. But when it's time to live, listen, we're not eating chitlins right now. I know it become a delicacy to us now, but no. If you want, you can have a pork chop. It's a difference. There's a change happening right now. Oh my God. I hope y'all with me. But y'all have helped me. Kanisha, that was excellent how you shared about raising a young man. It's real. Come on. You say the change. Yes, the change. The change. And it's all right. And guess what? Can I just be honest too? If as a single mother, I don't care how old your kids get, if as a single mother, you start getting, you get married, right? God sends your husband, the one that's for you, not nothing you settled for, but the one that's for you. If you slip up in regards to like your mindset, just ask God to renew your mind and have real dialogue with your husband. I always tell my husband, you is patient, you is kind, you is fine. Because I know he got to be patient with me. Okay? I know. I know me. The mommy fraternity. Yes, y'all, check out Kanisha with the mommy fraternity. I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing. But I have to just be honest and be like, listen, I should have called you before I bought that sofa. I know. I should have called you. I should have consulted you. But I knew what I wanted. But that's the single woman. That's that single mindset. No, just because you knew what you wanted and you should have called. Just be honest and apologize. And then correct yourself for the next time. Lobster, we do it. Listen. Listen, get that like crab legs. Listen, the other day, I'm gonna share this with y'all and I'm gonna get off of here. The other day, I was like, let's do dinner tonight. He's like, cool. I was like, I don't want to cook. Cool. I said, but don't tell me. Listen, my husband's not like that anyway. When we go out to dinner, he'd be like, whatever you want. But I was like, I knew that day I wanted to get that big bag of of the crab legs with the mussels and the shrimp and the corn. I knew I wanted that day. And I was like, yo, that's like $60. That's just me. I was like, I had a whole idea in my mind. I was like, okay, wait. Okay, so I'm going to tell him I want to do dinner. I want to order something, but I already know, like, my meal alone, like, we got a whole family over here, but my meal alone is $60. So I came to him, got myself all pumped up, right? The seafood boil, listen. I got myself all pumped up. I was like, we should get this. He was like, cool. I was like, yeah, so I'm going to get the one with the crab, the half pound. He was like, oh, okay. That's what we do. Yeah, that's what we going to do on a Wednesday night. Random. But, listen, it's a new thing. It's a new way. I would have never bought no crab legs before. I'm just saying, because I didn't have it. And I think it's it makes us, it teaches us at times that there's a lot more in us than we actually even understand. I remember I had a surgery one time, and 12 years ago I had a surgery, and I didn't have anybody at that time. I had just had my daughter, a little over 12 years ago. I had just had my daughter and everything. She was a little older, like maybe 1 or something. And I was like, yo, I gotta do what I gotta do. I wasn't supposed to pick her up for like 4 weeks or something like that. Yo, I created a little sling to put her on my hip. No lie. I created a little sling, because you can't tell your 10-month-old not to that you can't pick them up. You know what I mean? And I was like, how am I gonna take care of my body that has had surgery and still tend to my child when I'm a single mom? Yo, I created a little sling that I put under her arm, that picked her up to put her on my hips. Before I knew it, she knew to go get the sling. These are things that come back to my memory. That built resilience. That showed you that although you didn't plan for this, you got it in you to be able to handle this. And it doesn't mean that it's your forever. And it doesn't mean that you did something wrong. And it doesn't mean that you're being punished. Y'all feel what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that your life went sideways or you're sidetracked. You evolved with the situation. Oh my God. Girl, that was real. Listen. Tears in my eyes. Lorna, it was real. I figured out. I was like, listen, we gonna ball this shirt, tie these 2 shirts up together, put them under your arm, and because I can't lift, I'm just gonna throw you on my shoulder. And before I do it, she would grasp her legs on my hips, because she was like, all right, this what we doing? And guess what? And I'm gonna get off of here, and guess what? She ain't no different. Sometimes we think like our kids is getting the short end of the stick. Nah, they don't know no different. All they know is that you love them, and that you are always consistent, and that you're always the one that they see. They don't know, they might not have the language to articulate it, but they see you, Mom. They see you. Oh my God. I would pick up both babies up out of the car seats, girl, and say, Lord, I will not drop one. You see, listen, that's supernatural strength. She had twins, y'all. Twins. Remember I asked you, when I was pregnant, I'm like, okay, so how you had 2 of them in your stomach? Like, I only got 1, and I have to literally like speak life into myself every morning. Mommy power. I needed this today. Listen, Hope, we got this. We got it. But I love y'all. I'm going to get off of here. Because I'm on the road again. I stay on the road, Jesus. I love y'all. Y'all be blessed. And girl, you got this. You are an amazing mother. I don't care what nobody got to say. Put your gully face on and be like, what? I don't care if her hair needs to be rebraided. What? I'm a good mother. Keep it moving. Listen, no, folks only looking at your life through the crack in the door. They're not even in the doorway. They're looking through a crack. So you gotta always remember, keep that perspective when somebody got something they want to say about how you doing it and what you doing. They got a crack perspective. So I'm gonna give you a crack size answer. I'm good. Thank you. Oh, I see you. Wow. Put them words into your arsenal and keep it going, boo. Love y'all. Peace.